She sat abandoned in her wheelchair as the sun set, her husband gone, her hope fading. A black SUV stopped, and the Mafia boss inside remembered her instantly. Years ago, she'd pulled him from a burning hospital. Now he'd do anything to protect her. The bus stop smelled like gasoline and dying grass. Mia pressed her palms against the wooden bench, trying to steady her breathing. Her wheelchair sat folded beside her, its metal frame catching the orange glow of the setting sun. Everything hurt today, her legs, her back, the constant ache that had become her shadow since the accident 2 years ago. Daniel should be back any minute, she whispered to herself, watching the empty highway stretch endlessly in both directions. But even as she said it, a cold truth settled in her chest like a stone dropping into dark water. He wasn't coming back. The hospital appointment had been brutal. 3 hours of tests, needles, and doctors speaking in careful voices about progressive deterioration and long-term care options. Daniel had driven her there in silence, his jaw tight, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. She tried to hold his hand in the waiting room, but he pulled away to check his phone. When they finally left, he'd driven past their apartment building without slowing down. "Where are we going?" Mia had asked. "I need air," he'd muttered. I need to think." 20 minutes later, he'd pulled over at this forgotten bus stop on the outskirts of the city.
No shelter.
No schedule posted. Just a bench and a faded sign that might have once listed routes. "Wait here," Daniel had said, not meeting her eyes. "I'll be right back. I just need to grab something." That was 40 minutes ago. The sun was almost gone now, painting the sky in shades of purple and red. Mia fumbled for her phone, but the screen showed no signal. Of course. They were too far from the city center, too far from anything that mattered. A truck roared past, kicking up dust that made her cough. The driver didn't even glance her way. "Please," Mia called out, raising one hand weakly. But the truck was already disappearing around a bend. She tried to stand, just for a moment, just to see if maybe. Pain shot through her legs like lightning. She collapsed back onto the bench, gasping, tears stinging her eyes. The wheelchair. She needed to unfold it, needed to get somewhere safe before full darkness came. But her hands were shaking too badly. Another car passed. Then another. Nobody stopped. Mia understood what was happening, even if her mind refused to accept it. Daniel had left her here, deliberately. This wasn't a quick errand. This wasn't him needing space. This was abandonment. "Why?" she whispered into the empty air. "What did I do?" But she knew. She'd become inconvenient. Expensive. A burden that tied him down when he wanted to be free. The man who'd once promised to love her in sickness and in health had apparently found a loophole. Just leave the sickness behind at a bus stop and drive away. The sky deepened to navy blue. Streetlights flickered on somewhere in the distance, but not here. Here, there was only the rising darkness and the sound of Mia's own breathing. She was trying to figure out how to unfold her wheelchair with trembling hands when she heard it, the low, powerful purr of an engine that didn't belong to Daniel's beat-up sedan. Headlights swept across the highway, bright and predatory. Mia's heart hammered against her ribs. This wasn't a normal car. It was too big, too sleek. A black SUV with tinted windows and chrome that gleamed like a weapon. It slowed down as it approached. No, Mia thought. Please just keep driving. But the SUV stopped directly in front of the bus stop. For a moment, nothing happened. The engine idled, a deep rumble that vibrated through the ground. Mia couldn't see through the dark windows. Couldn't tell if there was one person inside or 10. Every instinct screamed at her to run, but her legs wouldn't cooperate. She was trapped here, helpless, while something dangerous closed in. The rear door opened. A man stepped out. He was tall, maybe 6'2", dressed in a charcoal suit that probably cost more than Mia's car used to. His dark hair was swept back, and even in the dim light, she could see the sharp angles of his face, strong jaw, high cheekbones, eyes that seemed to calculate everything in an instant. He looked at her, and Mia felt her breath catch. There was recognition in his gaze. Not the polite kind, not the "do I know you?" confusion. This was specific.
Certain.
Mia Hartley, he said quietly. His voice was smooth, controlled, with an accent that suggested expensive European schools. I never thought I'd see you again. Mia's mouth went dry. I don't. 6 years ago, the man continued, stepping closer. St. Catherine's Hospital. 3rd floor. There was a fire in the East Wing. The memory hit her like a physical blow. The smoke. The screaming. She'd been a medical intern, barely 22, and the evacuation alarms had been deafening. Most people had run toward the exits, but Mia had heard someone calling for help from a restricted ward. She'd found a man handcuffed to a hospital bed, a police guard unconscious on the floor from smoke inhalation. The man had been injured, gunshot wound to the shoulder, she remembered, and left behind in the chaos. Mia had broken the handcuffs with a fire extinguisher and helped him to safety. She'd never learned his name. The police had questioned her afterward, warned her she'd aided a dangerous individual, but no charges were ever filed. The whole incident had disappeared into bureaucratic silence. You, Mia breathed. Alessandro Vieri, he said, inclining his head slightly. And you saved my life. The name meant nothing to her, but the way he said it, the weight behind those syllables, suggested it should. I need to get home, Mia said, trying to keep her voice steady. My husband, Your husband left you here, Alessandro interrupted. His eyes flicked to the empty highway, then back to her. 43 minutes ago. I watched him drive away. Mia's blood turned to ice. You were watching? My men keep track of certain areas. Alessandro gestured toward the SUV. This highway is one of them. When I received word that someone matching your description was abandoned here, I came personally. Why? Because a very dead is never forgotten, he extended his hand toward her. Come with me. You're not safe here.
Mia stared at his hand.
Nothing about this made sense. A stranger from her past appearing at her lowest moment. A dangerous man offering rescue. I don't even know you, she whispered. No, Alessandro agreed. But I know you. And I know what happens to vulnerable women left alone on this highway after dark. Trafficking rings patrol this route. You have maybe 10 minutes before someone worse than me stops to help you. As if to punctuate his words, another vehicle appeared in the distance, slowing down as it approached. Alessandro's expression darkened. Decide now. Mia looked at the approaching vehicle, then at the man in the expensive suit, then down at her useless legs and folded wheelchair.
She took his hand.
The SUV's interior smelled like leather and something else, something sharp and metallic that Mia couldn't quite place. Alessandro lifted her effortlessly, settling her into the back seat while one of his men folded her wheelchair and stored it in the trunk. The door closed with a solid thunk that felt like a vault ceiling. Drive, Alessandro instructed the man in the front seat. Take the coastal route.
No haigues.
The vehicle pulled away smoothly, leaving the bus stop and its ghosts behind. Mia pressed herself against the window, watching the darkness swallow the place where Daniel had abandoned her. Part of her still expected to see his car racing back, full of apologies and explanations. But the highway remained empty. Water. Alessandro offered, pulling a bottle from a compartment. Mia's throat was desert dry, but she hesitated. She'd seen enough crime shows to know about drug drinks and kidnapped women who never came home. Alessandro seemed to read her mind. He opened the bottle, took a drink himself, then offered it again. I don't need to drug you, Miss Hartley. If I wanted to hurt you, I would have left you at that bus stop. The logic was cold but sound. Mia accepted the bottle and drank deeply. The water was cold, expensive tasting, nothing like the tap water she was used to. Where are you taking me? She asked. Somewhere safe. My estate on the coast. Alessandro leaned back in his seat, studying her with those calculating eyes. You'll have medical care, a comfortable room, anything you need. Considerate payment for a 6-year-old debt. You don't owe me anything. I did what anyone would do. No, his voice turned sharp. You did what almost no one would do. The hospital staff evacuated and left me to burn. The police guard abandoned his post. You, a young intern with no reason to risk yourself, came back into a burning building for a stranger. Mia remembered the heat, the smoke so thick it had felt like drowning. She'd acted on instinct, not heroism. The idea of leaving anyone to die had been unthinkable. I didn't know who you were, she said quietly. Would it have mattered if you did?
Mia thought about that.
6 years ago, she'd been idealistic, fresh out of medical school, believing in the sanctity of every human life. Now she was older, more cynical. But even now, even knowing what kind of man Alessandro Vieri might be. No, she admitted. It wouldn't have mattered. Alessandro smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. That's why I'm here. That's why I won't leave you to whatever fate your husband had planned. The words hit like a slap. Daniel wouldn't. He just needed space. He's been stressed with my medical bills and… Your husband sold your medical records 3 weeks ago. Alessandro's voice was matter-of-fact, as if he were discussing the weather. To a man named Viktor Kozlov. Does that name mean anything to you? Mia's world tilted sideways. That's impossible. Medical records are protected. He couldn't just. He's your legal spouse. He has access. Alessandro pulled out a tablet, tapped a few buttons, and turned it toward her. My people intercepted the transaction. $40,000 transferred to an offshore account in your husband's name. The screen showed bank statements, email exchanges, photographs of documents that looked sickeningly familiar. Her prescriptions. Her surgical reports.
Her home address.
Why? The word came out broken. Why would he sell my information? Because Viktor Kozlov runs a trafficking operation specializing in vulnerable individuals. People with disabilities, chronic illnesses, anyone who can be exploited in medical fraud schemes or worse. Alessandro's jaw tightened. Your records made you a target. High-value prescription medications, regular hospital visits, disability payments. To men like Kozlov, you're not a person. You're a resource. Mia felt bile rise in her throat. The bus stop. The isolated location. Daniel's tight-lipped silence during the drive. He'd been delivering her. Oh God, she whispered. He was going to leave you where Kozlov's people patrol. Alessandro took the tablet back. If I hadn't been monitoring this area, you would have disappeared tonight. Another missing person case that goes nowhere. The SUV turned onto a winding road that climbed into the hills. City lights sparkled below them like fallen stars. Mia's hands were shaking again, but this time from rage rather than fear. 2 years. 2 years of pain, of learning to live with her disability, of depending on Daniel for everything. And he'd been planning to sell her like furniture he no longer wanted. Why are you telling me this? Mia asked, her voice harder now. Why not just take me somewhere safe and let me believe a comforting lie? Because you deserve the truth. Alessandro's gaze was steady. And because the men who bought your information won't stop. Kozlov paid for an asset. He'll come looking for his investment. So I'm bait. No, Alessandro's response was immediate and fierce. You're under my protection. But I need you to understand what you're walking into. My world isn't kind, Miss Hartley. It's built on debts and territories and violence. By accepting my help, you're entering that world. Mia looked out the window at the glittering coast. Behind her was Daniel, the traffickers, certain death or worse. Ahead was a mafia boss who claimed to owe her a debt. Some choice. The fire, she said suddenly. 6 years ago. You were handcuffed in that hospital for a reason. What did you do? Alessandro was quiet for a long moment. When he finally spoke, his voice carried no apology. I killed 7 men who betrayed my family. The police were there to make sure I didn't kill anyone else. Mia should have been terrified. Should have demanded he let her out immediately. Instead, she asked the only question that mattered. Will you kill the men who tried to buy me? Alessandro smiled, and this time it was genuine, sharp and dangerous and absolutely certain. Yes. The Vieri estate appeared like something from a dark fairy tale. Massive iron gates opened automatically as the SUV approached, revealing a long driveway lined with cypress trees. The mansion itself was perched on a cliff overlooking the ocean, all stone and glass and sharp angles that caught the moonlight. Security lights illuminated manicured gardens, and Mia counted at least 4 armed men patrolling the grounds. This wasn't a home. It was a fortress. "Welcome to my sanctuary," Alessandro said as the vehicle stopped at the main entrance. The door opened, and a woman in her 50s appeared, silver hair pulled into a tight bun, wearing a crisp black dress that suggested authority. Her eyes swept over Mia with practiced assessment. "Miss Hartley requires the East Wing suite," Alessandro instructed. "Full medical accommodations. Have Dr. Chen examine her tonight. Nothing invasive, just a wellness check. She's been through trauma." "Of course, Mr. Vieri," the woman's voice was clipped, professional. "Shall I prepare meal?" "Something light." "She probably can't stomach much," Alessandro turned to Mia. "This is Mrs. Chun, my head of household. Anything you need, she'll provide it. You're not a prisoner here. You're a guest." Mrs. Chen's expression suggested she had opinions about that distinction, but she kept them to herself. 2 men helped Mia into her wheelchair, and Mrs. Chen led the way through marble corridors decorated with art that probably cost more than Mia's entire apartment. Everything was pristine, cold, beautiful in a way that felt untouchable. The East Wing suite was enormous. A bedroom with a king-sized bed, a bathroom with a walk-in shower designed for accessibility, a sitting area with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the black expanse of ocean. Medical equipment stood discreetly in one corner, a hospital bed if needed, monitoring devices, everything arranged with careful consideration. "Mr. Vieri had this wing renovated 2 years ago," Mrs. Chen said, helping Mia transfer from the wheelchair to a comfortable chair. "After his mother's illness. It's fully equipped for anyone with mobility needs." Mia touched the smooth armrest. This must have cost a fortune. "Mr. Vieri doesn't concern himself with cost when it comes to family," Mrs. Chen's tone softened slightly. "Or, apparently, those he considers under his protection." Before Mia could respond, a younger man entered, late 30s, wearing casual clothes but carrying a medical bag. Dr. Chen, she assumed, though the family connection to Mrs. Chen wasn't clear. "Miss Hartley," he greeted warmly.
I'm Dr. James Chen.
"I understand you've had a difficult day. I'd like to run some basic checks if you're comfortable with that." The examination was gentle, professional. Blood pressure, heart rate, checking her leg mobility, and pain levels. Dr. Chen asked questions about her medical history, her current medications, her pain management routine. He never once made her feel like a burden. "You're dehydrated and exhausted," he concluded, "but otherwise stable. I'll prepare an 4-drip for tonight, just fluids and some vitamins. It'll help you feel stronger by morning." "I can't pay for this," Mia said quietly. Dr. Chen smiled. "You're not expected to. Consider it professional courtesy." After he left to prepare the 4, Mrs. Chen brought a tray with soup, bread, and herbal tea. The food was simple but elegant, and despite her churning stomach, Mia found herself eating. She hadn't realized how hungry she was. She was halfway through the meal when voices drifted from a hallway, low, tense, speaking rapid Italian. Mia couldn't understand the words, but she recognized Alessandro's voice and a woman's sharper tone. The door opened, and a striking woman in her early 30s swept in. She had Alessandro's dark hair and sharp features, but none of his controlled calm. Her eyes blazed with fury. "So this is the charity case," she said in accented English. "The reason my brother is about to start a war." "Isabella," Alessandro warned from the doorway. "Not now."
When then?
"After Kozlov's men attack our home? After the council votes to remove you as head of the family?" Isabella turned to Mia. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" Mia set down her spoon carefully. "I didn't ask for any of this." "No, you just saved his life 6 years ago and made him feel indebted. Do you know what debts mean in our world? They're chains. Obligations that get people killed, Isabella's voice dropped to something dangerous. My brother has enemies who would love an excuse to call him weak. And now he's brought home a disabled woman he barely knows and declared her under Vieri protection. You might as well have painted a target on this entire estate. That's enough, Alessandro said coldly. Is it? The syndicate council meets tomorrow night. They'll see her as your liability. They'll demand you hand her over to Kozlov to maintain peace. Isabella's gaze never left Mia. How many lives is your conscience worth, Miss Hartley? The question hung in the air like poison. Mia wanted to argue, to defend herself, but Isabella wasn't wrong. She had dragged chaos into Alessandro's world simply by existing, simply by being someone he felt obligated to protect. I'll leave in the morning, Mia said quietly. I'll find somewhere else to go. And go where? Alessandro's voice was sharp. Back to the bus stop? To a hospital where Daniel can track you down? You wouldn't survive 3 days. Better than getting your family killed. Isabella laughed bitterly. Oh, she has a spine. How refreshing. She moved toward the door, then paused. For what it's worth, Miss Hartley, I don't blame you. I blame my brother for thinking honor matters more than survival. She left, her footsteps echoing down the marble corridor. Alessandro remained in the doorway, his expression unreadable. My sister has always been dramatic. Don't let her scare you. She's right though, Mia said. I'm putting you in danger. No, Alessandro's eyes were hard as diamonds. Your husband and the men he sold you to put you in danger. I'm simply correcting the balance. He left before Mia could argue further. Alone in the beautiful suite, Mia wheeled herself to the window. The ocean stretched endlessly below, dark and unknowable. Somewhere out there, Daniel was probably sleeping peacefully, $40,000 richer. And somewhere else, men who'd paid for her were planning to collect their merchandise. Daniel's apartment smelled like old takeout and desperation. He sat on the couch, phone pressed to his ear, his third beer sweating on the coffee table. His leg bounced nervously as the line rang once, twice, 3 times. Hello. His mother-in-law's voice was tired, suspicious. Carol, it's Daniel. I need to tell you something about Mia. A pause. What happened? Is she all right? Daniel rubbed his face, practicing the words he'd rehearsed for the past hour.
She's gone.
She had some kind of breakdown after her appointment today, and just ran off. I've been searching everywhere. Ran off. Carol's voice sharpened. Mia can barely walk without assistance. What do you mean she ran off? I don't know, Carol. She's been so depressed lately, talking about being a burden, saying she wished she'd died in the accident. The lies came easier now, sliding off his tongue like oil. At the hospital, she got this look in her eyes.
Wild. Scared.
When we got home, I went to park the car, and when I came back up, she was just
gone.
Wheelchair and all. He could hear Carol crying now, muffled sobs that should have made him feel guilty. Should have. Have you called the police? Carol demanded. I'm heading to the station now. I just wanted you to hear it from me first. Daniel's voice cracked perfectly. I'm so worried about her. She's not thinking straight. What if she hurts herself? Oh God. Oh my God, Carol was spiraling. I knew she was struggling, but I thought we should have paid more attention. Her father will be devastated. I'll find her, Daniel promised, injecting just the right amount of determination into his voice. I won't stop looking until she's safe. He ended the call and immediately dialed another number. This one rang only once. Did you do it? The voice was rough, Eastern European accent thick as concrete.
She's gone, Daniel said.
Left at the location we discussed.
No witnesses. Good.
My men should have collected her by now. A pause. The final payment will transfer once we confirm acquisition. Daniel's stomach twisted. And after that? We're done, right? No more contact. The man on the other end laughed, a sound like gravel scraping metal. You sold your wife, Daniel. You think you'd just walk away from that?
You're part of this now.
If she talks, if anyone traces this back to us, you go down too. She won't talk. She doesn't know anything. For your sake, you better hope that's true. The line went dead. Daniel threw his phone onto the couch and drained his beer. His hands were shaking. This wasn't supposed to feel so real. The money was supposed to make it worth it. $40,000 to clear his gambling debts, to start fresh somewhere new. Mia was going to be expensive for the rest of her life anyway. Medical bills, accessibility equipment, constant care. He'd done the math 100 times. This was practical. This was survival. So, why did his reflection in the TV screen look like a stranger? A knock at the door made him jump. Daniel checked the peephole and saw his friend Marcus, holding a six-pack. "Thought you could use some company," Marcus said when Daniel opened the door. "You sounded weird on the phone earlier." Daniel let him in, grateful for the distraction. Marcus was good people. Worked construction, played poker on Fridays, never asked complicated questions. "Mia left me," Daniel said, sticking to the script. "Just took off. I think she might be having a mental health crisis." Marcus set the beer on the counter, frowning. "That doesn't sound like her. Mia's tough. She fought through 2 years of recovery." "Yeah, well, maybe she got tired of fighting." Daniel grabbed another beer, popped it open. "She kept saying she was holding me back. Maybe she meant it. You file a report. Going to the station after this. Just needed to clear my head first." Marcus studied him with an expression Daniel couldn't quite read. "You okay, man? You seem off." "My wife just disappeared. How should I seem?" "I don't know. Worried? Panicked?" Marcus leaned against the counter. "You seem more relieved than anything." Daniel's blood went cold. "That's not." "What the hell, Marcus?" "I'm just saying what I see." Marcus held up his hands. "Look, I know things have been tough. The medical bills, the stress. But Mia's good people. She doesn't deserve whatever's going through your head right now." "You don't know what it's like," Daniel snapped. "Every day, every single day, it's something. She can't work.
Can't contribute.
I'm drowning in debt while she sits at home feeling sorry for herself. She was in a car accident that shattered her spine. She's not sitting at home. She's surviving." "Well, maybe I'm tired of just surviving." Daniel's voice rose. "Maybe I want my life back." "Is that so wrong?" Marcus grabbed his six-pack and headed for the door.
"Yeah, Daniel."
"It is." He paused at the threshold. "When the cops find her, and they will, you better have a good story. Because right now, you sound like a man who did something he can't take back." The door closed with a quiet click that felt like a gunshot. Daniel stood alone in his apartment, surrounded by Mia's things. Her books on the shelf. Her jacket on the hook. Her prescription bottles lined up on the bathroom counter like tiny soldiers. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Package not at designated location. Explain." Daniel's heart stopped. He typed back with shaking fingers. "What do you mean?" "She was there. I left her there." The response came immediately. "Location is empty. No sign of target. You have 24 hours to fix this or we come for our money, and you." The phone slipped from Daniel's fingers, clattering onto the floor. Mia was gone. But not the way she was supposed to be. Someone else had found her first. Morning came with salt air and seagulls. Mia woke disoriented, momentarily forgetting where she was. The bed was too soft, the ceiling too high, and the sound of waves too close. Then memory crashed back. Daniel, the bus stop, Alessandro Vieri, and his impossible debt. She'd slept in her clothes, too exhausted to change. The 4 Dr. Chin had administered was gone, the needle mark on her arm, the only evidence it had been there at all. She felt stronger, clearer, but also trapped in a stranger's mansion with no idea what came next. A soft knock at the door. Mrs. Chin entered carrying a tray with breakfast and a neatly folded set of clothes. "Good morning, Miss Hartley. I hope you slept well." She set the tray on a side table. "Mr. Vieri requests your presence in the garden at 10. I've brought clothing more suitable than what you arrived in." The clothes were expensive, soft cotton pants with an elastic waist for easy wheelchair use, a comfortable sweater, even adaptive shoes. Someone had thought carefully about her needs. This is too much, Mia said. Mr. Vieri insists. Mrs. Chen's expression softened slightly. Between you and me, he's been impossible since yesterday. Snapping at everyone, reorganizing security protocols. You've stirred something in him I haven't seen in years. What's that? Purpose. Mrs. Chen helped Mia into the bathroom. My husband and I have worked for the Vieri family for 20 years. Alessandro is a brilliant man, ruthless when necessary, but he's been hollow since his mother died. Going through motions. Building an empire with no real reason behind it. Then you appear, and suddenly he's alive again. Mia didn't know what to do with that information. After washing and dressing, she wheeled herself through the corridors following Mrs. Chen's directions. The mansion was even more impressive in daylight. Artwork worth fortunes, marble imported from Italy, windows that transformed entire walls into ocean views. The garden was a masterpiece. Roses and jasmine competed for attention, stone pathways wound between carefully pruned hedges, and a fountain carved from black marble served as the centerpiece. Alessandro stood near it, speaking quietly on his phone in Italian. He looked different in daylight, still dangerous, but also somehow more human. He wore dark jeans and a simple black shirt, sleeves rolled to his elbows. When he saw Mia, he ended his call immediately. You look better, he said. Did you sleep? Eventually Mia wheeled closer. Your sister was right last night. I shouldn't be here. My sister sees threats in everything. It's what makes her an excellent second-in-command, but terrible at understanding nuance. Alessandro gestured to a stone bench positioned perfectly in the shade. Let's talk. Before Mia could move, Isabella appeared from behind a hedge, making her jump. The woman moved like a cat, silent and predatory. Still here, I see, Isabella said coolly. She was dressed for business, tailored suit, hair swept back, every inch the executive despite the family business being organized crime. I suppose my brother explained the situation? Which situation? Mia asked. There seemed to be several. Isabella's lips quirked, almost a smile. At least she has a sense of humor. She turned to Alessandro. The council meets tonight at the cathedral. They've already heard rumors about your new guest. Dmitri called me this morning. He's pushing for a vote of no confidence. Dmitri has been pushing for that since father died, Alessandro replied calmly. This changes nothing. It changes everything. Isabella's composure cracked. You brought an outsider into our home. An outsider connected to Viktor Kozlov's operations. The council will see this as you choosing personal honor over syndicate interests. Then the council doesn't understand honor. The council understands power. Isabella's eyes flicked to Mia. And right now you look weak. A mafia boss playing white knight for a damsel in distress. I'm not a damsel, Mia said quietly. And I don't want to be anyone's cause for war. Isabella studied her for a long moment. No, I suppose you're not. She pulled out her phone, tapped something, then turned the screen toward Mia. This is what my brother is risking for you. The image showed a man, mid-50s, cold eyes, expensive suit. Mia recognized the type from her hospital days, the kind of person who expected the world to bend around them. Viktor Kozlov, Isabella said. Russian syndicate, specializes in human trafficking. He paid your husband $40,000 for your information. But here's what my brother hasn't told you. Kozlov didn't just buy your medical records. He bought exclusive rights. Mia's blood chilled. What does that mean? It means no one else can touch you without his permission. You're registered as his property in the trafficking network. Every syndicate from here to Moscow knows you're spoken for. Isabella's voice was flat, informational. By protecting you, Alessandro is essentially stealing from Kozlov. That's a declaration of war. Alessandro's jaw tightened. Isabella. She deserves to know what her rescue costs. Isabella pocketed her phone. Kozlov won't just send thugs, Alessandro. He'll come himself. And he'll bring proof to the council that you're violating syndicate neutrality agreements. Then I'll deal with the council.
How?
By fighting all of them? You're good, brother, but you're not invincible. Isabella's voice dropped. Mother made you promise to protect the family. All of it, not just your pride. The mention of their mother landed like a blow. Alessandro's expression flickered. Pain, guilt, something raw before his mask snapped back into place. I'm aware of my promises, he said coldly. Are you? Because right now it looks like you're willing to burn everything father built for a woman you saved once 6 years ago. Isabella glanced at Mia. No offense. None taken, Mia said, though her heart was hammering. She's right, Alessandro. This is insane.
Just
let me go. I'll figure something out.
no.
Why? Mia's frustration boiled over. Why are you doing this? One good deed 6 years ago doesn't justify starting a war. Alessandro crouched beside her wheelchair, bringing himself to eye level. His dark eyes were intense, burning with something she couldn't name. That fire killed 17 people, he said quietly. Hospital staff, patients, visitors. You risked your life for someone you thought was a criminal. Someone who probably deserved to burn. His voice dropped even lower. No one in my entire life has ever valued me that way. As a person worth saving, not a Verrier or a business asset.
Just
A human being worth pulling from a fire. Mia's breath caught. So yes, Alessandro continued, I will start a war for you, because you showed me that kind of humanity still exists. And I'll be damned if I let animals like Kozlov destroy it. Isabella made a disgusted sound. You're being emotional. It's going to get us all killed. But she didn't argue further. She simply walked away, leaving Mia and Alessandro alone in the garden with the weight of impossible choices. The scream came at 2 in the afternoon. Mia was in her suite, attempting to read a book Mrs. Chen had brought, when the sound shattered the peaceful silence. It was high-pitched, terrified, one of the household staff. Her door burst open. Alessandro stood there, his expression darker than she'd ever seen. Stay here, he commanded. Lock the door behind me. Don't open it for anyone except Mrs. Chen or myself. What's happening? But he was already gone, moving with lethal purpose down the corridor. Mia heard shouting in Italian, running footsteps, the sharp bark of orders being given. Every instinct screamed at her to follow, to see what had caused that scream. Instead, she locked the door and wheeled herself to the window. From her vantage point, she could see the front gates of the estate. A crowd had gathered there. Alessandro, Isabella, several armed men, and the young maid who'd been screaming. She was being comforted by Mrs. Chen, her face buried in the older woman's shoulder. On the driveway, just inside the gates, sat a white cooler. Even from this distance, Mia could see the dark stains on the concrete around it. Her stomach turned. She knew, somehow, what was inside that cooler before anyone opened it. Alessandro approached it carefully, one hand raised to keep his men back. He crouched down, opened the lid, and went absolutely still. When he stood, his face was carved from stone, but his eyes blazed with controlled fury. Isabella looked inside and turned away, her hand pressed to her mouth. One of the guards pulled out his phone, making a call. Another started documenting the scene with a camera. This was routine for them, Mia realized with growing horror. This kind of violence was just another Tuesday in their world. A knock at her door made her jump. Miss Hartley, it's Mrs. Chen. Mia unlocked the door. Mrs. Chen entered quickly, closing it behind her. Her usually composed face was pale, drawn. What was in the cooler? Mia asked, though she wasn't sure she wanted the answer. Mrs. Chen hesitated, then seemed to decide Mia deserved the truth. A hand, severed at the wrist. It belonged to one of Viktor Kozlov's men, a low-level enforcer named Dmitry Volkov. She moved to the window, closing the curtains. There was a note. What did it say? Hand over the girl. We know her value. You have 48 hours. Mrs. Chen's voice was steady, professional, but her hands trembled slightly. It's a declaration, Miss Hartley. They're giving Mr. Vieri an ultimatum. Mia felt the walls closing in. That man, the one whose hand they cut off. Did they kill him? We don't know yet. Sometimes these messages are sent while the victim is still alive. Sometimes Mrs. Chin didn't finish the sentence. The door opened again without knocking. Alessandro entered, followed by Isabella. Both looked like they'd aged years in the past 10 minutes. "We need to move her," Isabella said immediately. "Get her out of the country. Tonight. Running makes us look weak," Alessandro countered. "Staying makes us look stupid." Isabella's composure had completely shattered. Kozlov just announced to every syndicate in the region that he's coming for her. For us. If we keep her here, we're inviting an assault on our home. This is my home. Let him come. And when he does, when he brings 50 men and burns this place down, what then? Isabella's voice cracked. "I know you feel obligated to her, Alessandro. I understand. But one life isn't worth the entire family." "Stop talking about me like I'm not here," Mia said sharply. Both siblings turned to look at her. "This is my life you're debating," Mia continued, anger overriding fear. "My choice. And I won't be responsible for people dying because my husband sold me like property." "You don't get a choice," Alessandro said flatly. "Kozlov's men will torture you for days before they kill you. They'll use you for medical fraud, organ harvesting, whatever generates profit. You think your disability makes you worthless? To them, you're incredibly valuable. Every prescription, every hospital visit, every insurance claim, it all translates to money." The clinical assessment should have been terrifying. Instead, it made Mia furious. "Then teach me to fight back," she said. "Give me a weapon. Teach me to defend myself. Stop treating me like I'm made of glass." Isabella laughed, sharp and bitter. "Oh, I like her. She's delusional, but I like her." "This isn't a movie," Alessandro said. "You can't shoot your way out of a trafficking ring from a wheelchair." "No, but I can refuse to be helpless." Mia met his gaze steadily. "You said a very debt is never forgotten."
Fine.
"But my debt to myself is also never forgotten. I didn't survive 2 years of recovery just to hide in a mansion while people die for me." Alessandro stared at her for a long moment. Something shifted in his expression, calculation, respect, something dangerous. "You want to help?" he asked quietly. "Yes. Then here's how you help. Tonight, the syndicate council meets. They'll demand I hand you over to maintain peace. I'll refuse." He moved closer, his voice dropping. "But Kozlov doesn't know you're here. He knows I have you, but not where. That gives us an advantage." "What kind of advantage?" Isabella understood first. Her eyes widened.
No.
"Alessandro, that's insane even for you." "What?"
Mia demanded.
"What's insane?" Alessandro smiled, cold and predatory. "We let Kozlov's men find you. Or rather, we let them think they've found you. We set a trap. Using her as bait," Isabella said. "Using a disabled woman as bait for the most dangerous trafficking ring on the East Coast. Have you completely lost your mind? I have a security team of 40 men. Kozlov has twice that, but they're scattered across multiple operations." Alessandro's tactical mind was clearly working overtime. "If we can lure his main force to a single location, we can end this before it becomes a prolonged war." "And if the trap fails?" Mia asked. "If they actually get me?" Alessandro's expression hardened. "They won't. I promise you that." "His promises have a bad track record lately," Isabella muttered. But Mia was thinking. A trap meant action. It meant fighting back instead of cowering. It meant these men wouldn't get to decide her fate. She would. "Tell me the plan," she said. "Miss Hartley," Mrs. Chen protested. "Tell me the plan," Mia repeated, her voice stronger now. "If I'm the bait, I deserve to know how the trap works." Alessandro and Isabella exchanged a look. Some silent sibling communication passed between them. Finally, Alessandro nodded. "All right. But first, you need to understand something about the world you're entering. Come with me." He led her down to the basement levels, past wine cellars and storage rooms, to a steel door that required both a keycard and fingerprint scan. The room beyond was pure tactical operations, computer monitors, weapons racks, maps covering an entire wall. On one of the screens was a frozen image from a security camera. A man lay on a warehouse floor, his right hand missing, blood pooling around him. "That's Dmitry Volkov," Alessandro said. "Still alive when we checked an hour ago. Kozlov's people left him at a police station with a note pinned to his chest. Tell Vieri we're coming." Mia stared at the image. "Why show me this?" "Because this is what mercy looks like in my world," Alessandro said quietly. "They let him live. That's their version of restraint." He turned to face her fully. "If you help me with this trap, there's no going back. You'll see things, hear things, maybe do things that will change you."
Are you sure you want that?
Mia thought about Daniel abandoning her at a bus stop. About being sold like merchandise. About spending 2 years learning to live again, only to have someone try to take even that away. "I'm sure," she said.
Alessandro smiled.
"Then let's go hunting." The archive room was buried 3 levels below the mansion, accessible only through a series of coded doors that made Fort Knox look casual. Alessandro led the way, Isabella following with obvious reluctance, while Mia's wheelchair hummed softly on the polished concrete floor. "This is our intelligence hub," Alessandro explained, gesturing to rows of servers and filing cabinets. "Everything we collect on rival operations, law enforcement investigations, political movements, it all ends up here." A young man in his 20s looked up from a computer terminal, pushing his glasses up nervously. "Mr. Vieri, I have what you requested."
Show her, Alessandro said.
The analyst, introduced hastily as Marco, pulled up a digital file on the main screen. Mia's stomach dropped as she recognized the header. Her own medical records, complete with her patient ID number and treating physician's notes. "Your husband started accessing these 6 months ago," Marco explained, clicking through documents. "Small things at first. He requested copies for insurance purposes, then he began photographing prescriptions, saving surgical reports to a flash drive." 6 months, Mia whispered. "He planned this for 6 months. It gets worse." Marco pulled up a series of emails. 3 months ago, Daniel made first contact with an intermediary who works for Kozlov. The negotiation started at 20,000. Daniel pushed for more, citing your unique value proposition. The emails were brutal in their clinical detachment. Daniel describing her disability, her medication schedule, her psychological state. Every intimate detail of her life reduced to selling points. "Subject requires daily opioid management for chronic pain," Marco read aloud. "Excellent candidate for prescription fraud schemes. Cooperative personality. Easily controlled. Current emotional state shows significant depression. Minimal flight risk." Mia felt like she might vomit. "He wrote that? Daniel wrote that about me?" Every word. Isabella's voice was softer now, almost sympathetic. "I'm sorry you have to see this." Marco clicked to another document, a contract. Official looking, complete with legal terminology and signatures. "This is the purchase agreement. $40,000, with an additional $20,000 upon successful acquisition and verification of merchandise viability."
Merchandise, Mia repeated numbly.
"That's what I am to them. Merchandise." "Not to them." Alessandro crouched beside her wheelchair. "To us, you're a person who deserves protection. But yes, in their world, your inventory. A renewable resource. They would have kept you alive, kept you medicated, used your identity for fraud until you were no longer profitable. And then..." The silence answered that question. Marco cleared his throat. "There's more." Daniel didn't just sell to Kozlov. He also contacted 2 other trafficking organizations. He was shopping around for the best price. New emails appeared on screen. Different names, same sickening content. Daniel had sent Mia's information to multiple bidders like she was a used car he wanted to unload. "Kozlov won the auction," Marco continued. "But these other groups still have your information. They're bound by syndicate rules not to interfere with Kozlov's claim, but if he loses control of you," he trailed off meaningfully. "Then I become available again," Mia finished. "Even if we stop Kozlov, there are others waiting." "Exactly." Alessandro stood, his expression grim. "This isn't just about one trafficking ring. Your husband exposed you to an entire network. Every piece of information he sold is now circulating in criminal databases across 3 continents. The weight of it crashed down on Mia. Even if she survived this, even if Alessandro's plan worked, she would never truly be safe. Her information was out there, permanent and damaging. There has to be a way to fix this, she said desperately. Delete the files, hack the databases, something.
We're working on it, Marco said.
But these networks are decentralized. Even if we eliminate every digital copy, people have seen your information. They'll remember. So, what's the solution? I hide forever? Change my identity? Spend the rest of my life looking over my shoulder? Or, Isabella said slowly, you become too dangerous to touch. Mia looked at her. What does that mean? In our world, there are people who are off limits. Not because they're protected, anyone can hire protection, but because touching them guarantees immediate, brutal retaliation. Isabella leaned against the desk. If you're publicly claimed as under VRA protection, if everyone knows that harming you means war with our entire syndicate, you become radioactive. Too risky to pursue. But that requires Alessandro to actually go to war for me, Mia said. To make an example of Kozlov. Yes, Alessandro's voice was steady. Which is exactly what I intend to do. Marco pulled up another file, this one showing property records, financial transactions, and surveillance photos. We've been tracking Kozlov's operation for months. He runs medical fraud through shell companies, but his main base is a private clinic on the waterfront. Officially, it's a rehabilitation center for overseas patients. Actually, it's where they process their acquisitions. The surveillance photos showed people being loaded into ambulances, wheelchairs being rolled into unmarked vans. Some of the patients looked sedated. Others looked terrified. How many? Mia asked quietly. We estimate between 30 and 50 people at any given time, Marco said. All with disabilities, chronic illnesses, or conditions that make them valuable for fraud. Kozlov keeps them medicated, compliant, profitable. Mia stared at the faces on the screen. People like her. People who'd been abandoned, betrayed, sold by those who should have protected them. The trap, she said suddenly. You're going to leak that I'll be transported to that clinic, aren't you? Make Kozlov think you're handing me over.
Alessandro smiled grimly.
Not quite. We're going to make him think you escaped from here. That you're vulnerable, alone, trying to reach a hospital. His men will intercept you en route. And then we intercept them. Isabella pulled up a tactical map showing the city's waterfront district. The route to the nearest public hospital passes through 3 possible ambush points. We'll control all of them. When Kozlov's men make their move, we'll be ready. What about the people at the clinic?
Mia demanded.
The ones he already has. During the confusion of the ambush, a separate team will raid the clinic, Alessandro said. Federal agents, actually. We've been feeding information to a task force for months. They've been building a case, waiting for the right moment. You're working with law enforcement? Mia was stunned. We're not completely lawless, Isabella said dryly. Sometimes our interests align with justice. This is one of those times. Mia looked back at the surveillance photos. At the faces of people who needed saving. People she could help save if she was brave enough. When? She asked. Tomorrow night, Alessandro said. We leak the information at sunset. Kozlov will move fast. He can't risk losing his investment. By midnight, it'll be over. And if something goes wrong? If they actually get me before your team moves in? Alessandro's expression turned absolutely lethal. Then I will burn down every building Kozlov owns until I find you. I will destroy everyone he loves, everything he's built. I will make him regret the day he heard your name. It should have sounded like a threat. Instead, it sounded like a promise. Mia took a shaky breath. Okay, I'll do it. But I want something in return. Name it, Alessandro said. After this is over, after Kozlov is stopped, I want to talk to Daniel. Mia's voice was steel wrapped in silk. Face to face. Just 5 minutes. Can you arrange that? Alessandro and Isabella exchanged glances. That might be complicated, Isabella said carefully. Daniel's in police custody. He filed a missing person report for you this morning. Mia laughed, sharp and bitter. Of course he did. Covering his tracks. We can arrange a meeting, Alessandro said. But are you sure you want that? Seeing him again? Mia thought about the emails, the contract, the clinical description of her as merchandise. She thought about 2 years of marriage built on a foundation of lies. I'm sure, she said. He doesn't get to sell me and then pretend to be the grieving husband. He doesn't get to walk away clean.
Alessandro nodded slowly.
Then you'll have your 5 minutes. After we finish with Kozlov. Now, Isabella said, all business again, let's talk about how to make you convincing bait. The abandoned cathedral stood like a broken tooth against the night sky. Alessandro adjusted his cufflinks as the SUV approached, his expression carved from marble. Isabella sat beside him, dressed in black, her usual sharp energy replaced by tense focus. This meeting would determine everything. Remember, Isabella murmured, Dmitri will push for a vote immediately. Don't let him control the tempo. I know how to handle the council.
Do you?
Because last time you handled them, we nearly lost our shipping routes to the Calabrese family. Isabella's fingers drummed against her thigh. These men don't care about your honor code, Alessandro. They care about profit and stability. Right now you're threatening both. The SUV stopped. Alessandro's security detail had already swept the perimeter, 6 men positioned at strategic points, all armed, all loyal. The other families would have similar arrangements. The monthly council meetings were technically neutral ground, but everyone came prepared for war. Inside, the cathedral was a monument to decay. Stained glass windows were half-shattered, pews rotted and crumbling, but the main altar had been converted into a conference table surrounded by leather chairs. Portable lights cast harsh shadows across the faces of the assembled syndicate leaders. Dmitri Volkov sat at the head of the table, Viktor Kozlov's older brother, and the Volkov family's diplomatic face. He was 60, gray-haired, wearing a suit that cost more than most cars. His smile was all teeth and no warmth.
Alessandro.
Isabella. So glad you could make it. Dmitri gestured to empty chairs. We have much to discuss. 5 other families were represented. The Calabrese, the Chin Syndicate, the Rostov brothers, the Moretti clan, and the independent operator known only as the Banker. Together, they controlled every major criminal operation from Boston to Philadelphia. Let's skip the pleasantries, said Maria Calabrese, a woman in her 50s with eyes like a shark. We all know why we're here. Alessandro violated syndicate protocol by interfering with the Volkov acquisition. I rescued a woman from being trafficked, Alessandro corrected calmly. There's a difference. Not according to syndicate law, Dmitri said smoothly. My brother purchased legal rights to that woman's information. She became Volkov property. You stole from us. She's not property. She's a human being. Semantics, Dmitri waved a hand dismissively. The point remains, you broke protocol. The council must address this. Chun Wei, the elderly leader of the Asian syndicate, spoke up in accented English. The girl saved your life, yes? 6 years ago, in hospital fire? She did, Alessandro confirmed. Then you have debt, Chin nodded slowly. In my culture, such debt is sacred. But he paused meaningfully. Sacred debt to one person does not justify war with entire syndicate. You understand difference. I understand you're all afraid of what protecting one innocent woman says about your own operations, Alessandro said coldly. If I can defy Kozlov over a single trafficking victim, it raises questions about all your ventures. The room went silent. Several council members shifted uncomfortably. Careful, warned Mikhail Rostov, a bear of a man with a thick Russian accent. You accuse us of cowardice?
I am stating facts.
This council has overlooked Kozlov's trafficking operation for years because it's profitable and doesn't directly compete with your territories. But it's brought federal attention. Task forces. Investigations. Alessandro leaned forward. How long before those investigations trace back to your operations? Your money laundering? Your smuggling routes? Those are separate issues. Dimitri interjected quickly. Too quickly. Are they? Isabella jumped in. Because federal agents raided 3 facilities in the past month, all connected to human trafficking, all sharing financial networks with council members' legitimate businesses. She slid a folder across the table. Inside were bank statements, corporate filings, connection maps that drew very uncomfortable lines. The banker, a thin man whose real name no one knew, picked up the documents with skeletal fingers. Where did you get this? Does it matter? Isabella asked. The feds have it too. Kozlov's operation isn't just immoral, it's become a liability. By protecting his brother, this council is protecting a sinking ship. My brother runs a legitimate medical consultancy, Dimitri started. Your brother runs a torture operation disguised as a clinic. Alessandro cut him off. We have testimony from 12 victims. Photographs. Video evidence. He's not even subtle about it anymore. Then why haven't the authorities moved? Maria Calabrese asked suspiciously. Because they're building a case against the entire network. Not just Kozlov. Everyone he's connected to. Alessandro paused for effect. Everyone at this table. The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. You're bluffing, Dimitri said, but his voice wavered. Am I? Alessandro pulled out his phone, played a video. It showed federal agents in a briefing room, a wall covered with photographs. Council members' faces featured prominently. How did you? Mikhail Rostov stood up, furious. I have friends in interesting places, Alessandro said simply. The task force goes live in 72 hours. Unless. Unless what? Chun Wei asked. Unless we give them a better target. A clean operation that lets them declare victory without exposing the rest of us. Alessandro's smile was predatory. Someone has to take the fall. I nominate Kozlov. Dimitri slammed his hand on the table. This is outrageous. You can't just sacrifice my brother. Can't I? He's the one who brought federal heat down on all of us. He's the one who operates without discretion. Alessandro stood, commanding the room. I'm offering you a solution. We help the feds take down Kozlov's operation. Clean and surgical. In exchange, they look the other way on everything else. And your stolen property. Dimitri spat. What happens to her? She testifies against Kozlov. Becomes the face of his crimes. The innocent victim rescued by brave law enforcement. Isabella's voice was smooth as silk. The feds get their conviction. The story stays contained, and the rest of council operations continue undisturbed. What about my family? Dimitri demanded. Our reputation. Blame Victor, Alessandro said coldly. Say, he went rogue. That you tried to stop him, but he refused to listen. Distance yourself publicly. Maintain power privately. You're smart enough to manage that. The council members looked at each other. The calculus was simple. Sacrifice one operation or risk exposure for everyone. I want guarantees, Maria Calabrese said finally. How do we know this task force will stop at Kozlov? Because I'm the one feeding them information, Alessandro admitted. Selectively.
Carefully.
I control what they know and when they know it. After Kozlov falls, the trail goes cold. You've been working with federal agents? The banker's voice was ice. That's grounds for council expulsion. Then expel me. But first, ask yourselves who'll protect you when the raids start. Alessandro crossed his arms. I'm offering you survival. Take it or leave it. A long silence stretched. Finally, Chun Wei spoke. I vote to accept. Kozlov operation too visible, too dangerous. Better to cut off infected limb than let whole body die. Agreed, Maria Calabrese said reluctantly. One by one, the other families fell in line. Only Dimitri remained silent, his face purple with rage. This isn't over, he said quietly. My brother won't go down without a fight. I'm counting on it, Alessandro replied. The meeting adjourned. As they walked back to the SUV, Isabella grabbed Alessandro's arm. That was insane. You basically declared war on the entire trafficking network. Yes. The feds don't actually have a task force ready to move, do they? You made that up.
Alessandro smiled.
They have evidence. Whether they move in 72 hours or 72 days depends on how much I cooperate. I just accelerated their timeline in the council's minds. And if Kozlov figures out it's a setup, then tomorrow night gets interesting. Alessandro climbed into the SUV. Make sure Mia is ready. Once this starts, there's no stopping it. Isabella slid in beside him. She's stronger than she looks. I know. That's what worries me. Alessandro stared out at the cathedral's silhouette. Strong people think they're invincible. That gets them killed. Then don't let her die, Isabella said simply. Because if you do, everything you said in there becomes meaningless. You'll have sacrificed council stability, made enemies of the Volkovs, and betrayed your own principles. All for nothing. Alessandro didn't answer, but his jaw tightened, and Isabella knew her brother well enough to recognize that expression. He was afraid. Not of Kozlov, not of the council, but of failing the one person who'd ever seen him as worth saving. The docks smelled like diesel fuel and rotting fish. Mia sat in her wheelchair inside a modified medical van, her heart hammering so hard she thought it might break through her ribs. Through the tinted windows, she could see the waterfront. Shipping containers stacked like building blocks, cranes frozen mid-reach against the night sky, water slapping against concrete pillars. Testing comms, Alessandro's voice crackled through the tiny earpiece hidden in her ear. Mia, tap your left armrest twice if you can hear me. She tapped twice.
Good.
Remember the plan. Stay calm. We have eyes on you from 4 different positions. His voice was steady, reassuring. Nothing will happen to you. I promise. Easy for him to say. He wasn't sitting in a van designed to look like an easy target. The leak had gone out 3 hours ago, a carefully planted rumor that Mia was being transported from a safe house to a private hospital for emergency treatment. The route had been disclosed to known Kozlov informants. The timing, the vehicle description, the lack of heavy security, everything designed to look like an opportunity too good to miss. Now they waited. Agent Sarah Torres sat in the driver's seat, dressed as a private nurse, her FBI credentials hidden beneath hospital scrubs. She was young, maybe 30, with sharp eyes that never stopped moving. You're doing great, Torres said quietly. Just breathe. We've got at least 20 agents positioned around the docks, plus Vieri's people. Nobody's getting to you. Unless they do, Mia muttered. Then I shoot them. Torres's hand rested casually near her concealed weapon. I've been tracking Kozlov's operation for 18 months. You have no idea how badly I want to take this bastard down. The earpiece crackled again. Isabella this time. Movement on the North Access Road. 3 vehicles approaching. Black sedans. Tinted windows. Mia's hands gripped her armrests. This was it. Stay cool. Alessandro's voice cut in. Let them get close. We need them to commit. The 3 sedans pulled into the dock area, moving slowly, predatory. They fanned out, blocking potential escape routes. Professional. Coordinated. The van's side door suddenly rattled, someone trying the handle from outside. Federal agents, stand down. Torres shouted, her weapon drawn. But the person outside wasn't deterred. Something metallic scraped against the lock. They were picking it. Alessandro, Mia whispered into her hidden mic, they're breaking in. I know. 5 more seconds. Let them open the door. 5 seconds felt like 5 years. The lock clicked. The door slid open. 4 men stood outside, all armed, all wearing tactical gear. The lead one smiled when he saw Mia, a smile that made her skin crawl. Hello, merchandise, he said in a thick Russian accent. Time to come with us. Torres aimed her weapon. FBI, drop your weapons and get on the ground. The man's smile widened. He raised his hand slowly, then everything exploded into chaos. Gunfire erupted from multiple directions. The Russians dove for cover. Torres pushed Mia's wheelchair down flat, shielding her body with her own as bullets punched through the van's walls. Go, go, go. Alessandro's voice roared through the earpiece. Black-clad figures swarmed from between shipping containers, Alessandro's security team and FBI agents moving in perfect coordination. Flashbangs detonated with ear-splitting cracks. Someone was screaming in Russian. The lead trafficker tried to grab Mia's wheelchair, but Torres fired 3 shots center mass. He dropped like a puppet with cut strings. Stay down, Torres commanded, returning fire. Through the chaos, Mia saw Alessandro moving like a force of nature. He took down 2 men with brutal efficiency, one with a strike to the throat, another with a gun he'd stripped from an enemy's hands.
No hesitation. No merci.
This was the man who'd saved her. And he was absolutely terrifying. Subject secured, someone called out. Kozlov's second-in-command is down. Where's Kozlov? Alessandro demanded, his voice cutting through the gunfire. Find him. A new voice on the comms. One of Alessandro's men. Boss, we have a problem. There's a second team hitting the clinic right now. They knew about the raid. Isabella's voice, sharp with urgency. It's a countertrap. Kozlov sent his expendables here while he personally went after the captives at the clinic. He's eliminating evidence. Alessandro's curse was creative and multilingual. How many agents at the clinic? 6, Torres said, listening to her own radio. Against an unknown number of hostiles. They're requesting immediate backup. The captives, Mia said, finding her voice despite the terror. He's going to kill them. All those people. Alessandro was already moving. Isabella, take command here. Make sure every one of these bastards is accounted for. He looked at Torres. How fast can you drive? Fast enough. But that clinic is 20 minutes away. Make it 10. Alessandro yanked open the passenger door. Mia comes with us. That's insane, Torres protested. She's a civilian. She's disabled. She's the only leverage we have. Alessandro's eyes burned. Kozlov won't kill his asset. If he sees her, he'll stop to negotiate. That gives your team time to breach. Or it gets her killed. Torres shot back. It gets those people at the clinic killed if we don't move now. Alessandro's voice cracked with urgency. How many, Agent Torres? How many victims are in that building? Torres's jaw clenched. 43. Last count. 43 lives versus 1 very protected woman in a bulletproof van with a federal agent and a team of highly trained operatives. Alessandro grabbed Mia's wheelchair, locked it into the van's securing mechanism. I'm not asking permission.
Drive. Now.
Torres made a decision. She slammed the van into gear and hit the accelerator. The waterfront disappeared behind them in a blur of lights and chaos. Torres drove like a woman possessed, weaving through traffic, ignoring red lights, the siren hidden in the vehicle now blaring. Clinic team, this is Torres, she spoke into her radio. Hold your position. Reinforcements en route with special asset. ETA 9 minutes. The response was punctuated by gunfire. Copy. Hostiles are executing captives. We're breaching now, can't wait. Mia felt sick. People were dying.
Right now.
Because of her, because of this trap, because Viktor Kozlov would rather murder 43 people than let them become evidence. Faster, she whispered. Alessandro was on his phone, barking orders in Italian. More vehicles appeared behind them, his security team following in formation. This wasn't a rescue operation anymore.
It was a full assault.
The clinic appeared ahead, a converted warehouse trying to look medical with fake signage and clean paint. But right now it looked like a war zone. Bodies on the ground outside. Windows shattered. The federal agents had breached, but were pinned down by heavy fire. Torres, you can't drive into that, Alessandro said. Stop here. Mia stays in the van with you. I'm going in. Like hell, Mia said. You said I was leverage. Use me.
Mia.
Those people are dying because I exist. Because Daniel sold me. Because Kozlov wants me. Her voice shook with fury and fear. If me being here stops the killing, then use me. Alessandro stared at her for 3 seconds that felt eternal. Then he nodded. Torres, get us to the front entrance. Stay in the vehicle but visible through the windshield. He loaded a fresh magazine into his weapon. Mia, when we stop, I'm going to open your door. You stay in the wheelchair, stay in the van, but Kozlov needs to see you. Understand? She nodded, her mouth too dry for words. The van screeched to a halt 15 feet from the clinic entrance. Through the windshield, Mia could see shadows moving inside, people running, fighting, dying. Alessandro threw open the side door. Victor Kozlov, he roared into the night. Your merchandise is here. Come collect it if you're brave enough. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a man appeared in the clinic doorway. He was smaller than Mia expected, maybe 5'8", thin, wearing an expensive suit now splattered with blood. His face was ordinary, forgettable, except for his eyes. Those eyes were empty of everything except calculation. Victor Kozlov looked at Mia like she was a stock portfolio he was evaluating. Alessandro Vieri, Kozlov called out in accented English. You bring my property to me? How generous. Your property just became your death sentence, Alessandro replied. Drop your weapons. Surrender. It's over. Kozlov smiled. Behind him, Mia could see people, captives, thin and terrified, being held at gunpoint by his men. Over? Kozlov laughed. No, my friend. It's just beginning. He raised his hand. 20 more men emerged from the shadows around the clinic. They'd walked straight into a trap of their own. The police interrogation room smelled like stale coffee and broken lives. Daniel sat hunched in a metal chair, his hands cuffed to the table, looking like a man who'd aged a decade in 3 days. His shirt was wrinkled, his face unshaven, and his eyes darted nervously between the two-way mirror and the door. He didn't know Mia was watching from the other side of that mirror. She sat in her wheelchair, flanked by Alessandro on one side and Agent Torres on the other. The clinic raid had ended 12 hours ago, chaotic, bloody, but ultimately successful. Kozlov was dead, shot during the firefight when he'd tried to use a captive as a human shield. His men had scattered or surrendered. 43 victims were now in federal protective custody, receiving medical care and counseling. And Mia had her 5 minutes with the man who'd sold her. You don't have to do this, Alessandro said quietly. You've been through enough. I need to. Mia's voice was steady now, hardened by everything she'd witnessed. He doesn't get to pretend this didn't happen. Torres nodded to the officer at the door. 5 minutes. We'll be right outside. They wheeled Mia into the interrogation room. Daniel looked up, and the blood drained from his face. Mia, he breathed. Oh God, Mia. You're alive. I thought when I heard about the shooting at the docks, I thought. Thought what? Mia's voice was ice. That you'd finally gotten rid of me? That Kozlov's people had finished what you started? Daniel's mouth opened and closed like a fish drowning in air. I don't know what they told you, but they didn't tell me anything, Daniel. They showed me. Mia pulled out a folder, the same one Marco had compiled. Emails. Bank records. The contract where you sold me for $40,000. She threw the folder onto the table. Papers scattered like accusations. Daniel stared at them, his face crumbling. I can explain. I was desperate, the gambling debts, You were desperate? Mia's laugh was sharp enough to cut. I had my spine shattered in a car accident. I spent 2 years learning to walk again, to live again, while you smiled and pretended to support me. And the entire time, you were shopping around for the best price to sell me to traffickers. It wasn't supposed to be like that. They said it was just for medical fraud, that you'd be taken care of. They lied, Daniel. Like you lied. Mia leaned forward, her hands gripping the armrests of her wheelchair. Do you know what Victor Kozlov's clinic was? Do you want to know what happens to the merchandise you sold me too? Daniel looked away, tears streaming down his face. They keep people sedated, Mia continued, her voice relentless. Use their identities for insurance fraud, prescription schemes, fake disability claims. When the victims become too much trouble or their identities are compromised, they're killed. Organs harvested, if they're viable. Bodies dumped in the ocean if they're not. I didn't know. Yes, you did. Mia's voice cracked. Maybe not the details, but you knew. You knew I wouldn't just disappear into some comfortable facility. You knew, and you did it anyway because $40,000 was worth more than my life. Daniel sobbed openly now. I'm so sorry.
I'm so sorry, Mia.
I was weak, I was stupid, You were evil. The word hung in the air, absolute and final. Not weak. Not stupid. Evil. You looked at a woman you promised to love, a woman struggling with disability and pain, and you saw dollar signs. Please, Daniel begged. Please, I'll do anything. I'll testify, I'll help the investigation. Just, please forgive me. Mia stared at him for a long moment. This man she'd married, built a life with, trusted completely. He looked pathetic now, broken and desperate. Part of her wanted to feel something, pity, anger, even hatred. But all she felt was empty. You wrote in one of your emails that I was easily controlled and had a cooperative personality, Mia said quietly.
You were wrong about that.
I survived 2 years of hell. I survived your betrayal. I survived Kozlov's operation. And I will keep surviving long after you're forgotten in whatever prison cell they put you in. Mia, please. You get nothing from me, Daniel. Not forgiveness. Not understanding. Not even my hatred, because that would require me to still care. Mia turned her wheelchair toward the door. You stole my body before I ever lost the ability to walk. You just didn't realize I'd already lost faith in you long before that. She paused at the doorway, looking back one final time. The woman you married died at that bus stop. The woman leaving this room is someone you made. Someone harder. Someone who knows that love is worthless without honor. Her voice dropped to barely a whisper. I hope that $40,000 was worth losing the only person who ever truly believed in you. Daniel collapsed onto the table, his sobs echoing off the concrete walls. Mia wheeled herself out and didn't look back. Alessandro was waiting in the hallway. He fell into step beside her without a word, understanding that she needed silence more than comfort. They were almost to the exit when Torres caught up with them. Daniel's cooperating fully, she said. His testimony, combined with the evidence from Kozlov's operation, will dismantle 3 major trafficking rings. The DA is talking about 15 to 20 years. Good, Mia said flatly. There's something else. Torres handed her an envelope. Divorce papers. Fast-tracked by a judge who owed the Bureau a favor. Sign them, and you're legally free of him by end of week. Mia took the envelope, feeling its weight. Legal freedom. Such a small thing compared to everything else, but somehow vital.
Thank you, she said.
Torres nodded. You did good work, Mia. Those 43 people from the clinic, they're alive because you were brave enough to be bait. Several of them asked about you. They want to say thank you. I'm not a hero, Mia said quietly. No, Alessandro agreed. You're something better. You're a survivor who became a fighter. They emerged into daylight. The sun was too bright, the air too clean, the world too normal for everything that had happened. Mia tilted her face up, letting the warmth sink into her skin. She thought about Daniel in that interrogation room, broken and alone. She thought about Kozlov, dead on a clinic floor, surrounded by the people he'd tortured. She thought about all the victims, past and future, whose lives intersected with her own in this strange, violent salvation. What happens now? She asked. Alessandro considered the question. Now you heal. Really heal, not just your body, but everything else. You rebuild. You decide who you want to be without anyone else defining it for you. And the trafficking networks? Daniel said he sold my information to others besides Kozlov. We're working on it. The FBI task force is expanding. Every name in Daniel's emails, every contact, every intermediary, they're all being investigated. Alessandro's voice hardened. And anyone stupid enough to still consider you a target will learn very quickly why that's a fatal mistake. Mia looked at him. This dangerous man who'd kept his promise, who'd burned down an empire to honor a 6-year-old debt. Why did you really do all this? And don't say, because I saved your life. That's not the whole truth. Alessandro was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was soft, almost vulnerable. Because you saw me as human when I was handcuffed to a hospital bed, bleeding and cursed by everyone around me. You didn't see a criminal or a mafia heir. You just saw someone who needed help. He met her eyes. In my world, that kind of purity doesn't exist. Everyone wants something, everyone has an angle. Except you. You helped because it was right. I needed to remember that kind of person still exists. I'm not pure anymore, Mia said. Not after everything I've seen. No, Alessandro agreed. But you're still good. And that's rarer than you think. Agent Torres cleared her throat. I hate to interrupt, but Mia, we have a safe house ready if you need somewhere to stay during the trial proceedings. Mia looked at the envelope in her lap, divorce papers waiting for her signature. Then, at Alessandro, standing guard like he'd done since that first night at the bus stop. Actually, she said slowly, I think I have somewhere else in mind. The Vieri Estate war room was silent except for the sound of rain against bulletproof windows. Alessandro stood at the head of the table, studying surveillance photos spread across the polished surface. Viktor Kozlov was dead, but his network wasn't. Like cutting off a hydra's head, two more grew back, hungrier and angrier than before. Isabella entered without knocking, her hair damp from the storm outside. The Chechen brothers just made contact. They're offering to absorb Kozlov's remaining operations. For a finder's fee, of course. Meaning they want to pick up where Kozlov left off. Alessandro's jaw tightened. How many of his people are still operational? 18 confirmed. Maybe more in hiding. Isabella poured herself a drink from the crystal decanter. They scattered after the clinic raid, but they're regrouping. And they're angry. Word on the street is there's a bounty on Mia's head. 50,000 to whoever delivers her. Then we double our security. Alessandro, Isabella's voice carried a warning. We can't keep this up forever. Every day she stays here, she's a target. Every day we protect her, we make more enemies. I'm aware.
Are you?
Because from where I'm standing, you've started a war that's costing us alliances, money, and resources. All for a woman you barely know. Alessandro turned to face his sister fully. She saved my life. And you've repaid that debt 10 times over. You destroyed Kozlov's operation, rescued 43 victims, handed the FBI their biggest trafficking bust in a decade. Isabella slammed her glass down. At what point does the debt end? When do you get your life back? When she's safe. She'll never be safe. Not completely. Not as long as her information is floating around the underworld. Isabella's voice softened. I'm not heartless, Alessandro. I like Mia. She's braver than most soldiers I know. But you're sacrificing everything for an impossible goal. The door opened. Mia wheeled herself in, followed by Mrs. Chun with an umbrella. Sorry, Mia said, noting the tension. I can come back. No, Alessandro said quickly.
Stay.
This concerns you. Mia positioned herself at the table, studying the photos. Her face had changed over the past week. Less shock, more steel. She'd witnessed violence, betrayal, survival. It had carved her into something harder. That's Kozlov's second-in-command, she said, pointing to a photo. Dmitri mentioned him during the raid. Said he was the one who handled quality control at the clinic. Viktor Sokolov, Isabella confirmed. He's coordinating the remaining network. If we eliminate him, the organization collapses completely.
Eliminate, Mia repeated quietly.
You mean kill? The word hung in the air. Yes, Alessandro said, no apology in his voice. Men like Sokolov don't stop because we ask nicely. They don't fear prison or legal consequences. They only understand one language: violence. Permanent solutions. Alessandro moved to stand beside her wheelchair. I need you to understand something, Mia. What we did at the clinic, the raid, the arrests, that was the legal approach. We worked with federal agents, followed protocols. But the networks that deal in human trafficking don't respect those rules. If we don't finish this, they'll keep coming for you. Forever. Mia looked at the photos. Viktor Sokolov had a cruel face, eyes that had seen too much suffering and enjoyed it. How many people had he hurt? How many lives destroyed in the name of profit? Would you have survived their mercy? Alessandro asked quietly, the same question he'd posed days ago. Mia remembered the clinic. The captives chained to beds, sedated and processed like cattle. The ones who'd been there so long they barely remembered their own names. No, she admitted. I wouldn't have. Then you understand why this has to happen. I understand necessity, Mia said carefully. But I need to know, after this, after Sokolov is gone, does it end? Or will there always be another target, another threat, another justification for violence? Isabella laughed bitterly. Finally, someone asking the right questions. Alessandro was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of years. In my world, violence is currency. It buys respect, maintains territory, enforces agreements. I was raised in it. I've built my life around it. He crouched beside me his wheelchair. But you're asking if I enjoy it. If I'm using your situation as an excuse to do what I do anyway. Are you? No, the answer was immediate and honest. I don't enjoy killing. I don't celebrate it. But I'm good at it, and sometimes it's necessary. Sokolov is necessary. Because of me. Because of what he represents. A system that treats human beings as commodities. Alessandro's eyes were dark, haunted. My mother, before she died, she made me promise to use the family's power for something beyond money and territory. She said we had a responsibility to protect those who couldn't protect themselves. Isabella's expression softened.
Alessandro.
I broke that promise for years, he continued. Told myself that maintaining the business was protection enough. That keeping our people employed, our territory stable, was sufficient. He looked at Mia. Then you appeared at that bus stop, and I remembered what she meant. Real protection. Not for profit or territory, but because it's right. Mia felt tears sting her eyes. Your mother sounds like she was an incredible woman. She would have liked you, Alessandro stood. Which is why I'm going to finish this. Not because I owe you a debt, but because letting men like Sokolov operate makes me complicit in their crimes. When? Mia asked. Tonight. Sokolov is meeting with the Chechen brothers at a warehouse near the port. He thinks he's negotiating the sale of Kozlov's remaining assets. Alessandro's smile was cold. He's not. You're going to ambush them, Mia said. I'm going to end this, Alessandro corrected. There's a difference. Is there?
Mia challenged.
At what point does justice become revenge? At what point does protection become murder? When innocent people stop dying, Alessandro said simply. Sokolov has killed 17 people that we know of. Torture, execution, disposal. If we let him walk away, how many more will die while we debate morality? Mia had no answer for that. Isabella checked her phone. Security teams are in position. We have confirmation Sokolov left his safe house 10 minutes ago. ETA to the warehouse is 40 minutes. Good. Alessandro moved to the weapons cabinet, began selecting gear with practiced efficiency. Isabella leads the assault team. I'll provide overwatch. And me? Mia asked. Both siblings turned to look at her. You stay here, Alessandro said. Under heavy guard. This isn't my world, I know. You keep saying that. Mia's voice hardened. But it became my world the moment Daniel sold me. It became my world when I watched people die at that clinic. You don't get to protect me from consequences anymore, Alessandro. I'm already covered in them. You want to come to a sanctioned assassination? Isabella's eyebrows rose. Have you lost your mind? Maybe. Or maybe I need to see it through. All of it. Mia met Alessandro's gaze steadily. You said I needed to understand your world.
Fine.
Show me. Not the sanitized version. Not the necessary evil you justify to yourself. The real thing. The blood.
The choice.
The moment when you decide someone doesn't deserve to live anymore.
Mia.
I watched my husband sell me. I watched Kozlov try to murder 43 people rather than let them go free. I watched federal agents and criminals work together because sometimes the lines blur. Mia's voice shook, but didn't break. If this is the world I'm living in now, I need to understand it completely. not as a victim, as someone who chooses to be here. Alessandro studied her for a long moment. Then, surprisingly, he nodded. All right. But you stay in the surveillance van with Isabella. You observe only.
No heroics, no interventions.
Understood? Understood. Isabella threw up her hands. This is insane. Both of you are insane. Probably, Alessandro agreed. But she's right. This is her world now too. She deserves to see what she's choosing. 2 hours later, Mia sat in an armored surveillance van 2 blocks from the warehouse. Multiple screens showed different angles, heat signatures, infrared, standard cameras. Alessandro's voice crackled through the comms, calm and professional. Teams in position. Sokolov just entered the building. 6 guards with him, plus the 3 Chechen representatives. That's 9 hostiles, Isabella muttered beside Mia. Against our 12. Decent odds. On screen, Mia watched shadowy figures move through the warehouse. Sokolov was animated, gesturing as he talked, negotiating over human lives like they were used furniture. Execute, Alessandro's voice commanded. The world exploded into controlled chaos. 10 days later, the rehabilitation center perched on a cliff overlooking the ocean, all glass and clean white walls that caught the afternoon sun. It was peaceful here, almost aggressively so, as if the building itself was determined to erase the darkness of the world beyond its gates. Mia sat in the therapy garden, her wheelchair positioned to face the water. Physical therapy had gone well this morning. Her legs were responding better to treatment, the pain more manageable. Dr. Chun, the real Dr. Chun from the Vieri estate, visited twice a week, coordinating with the rehab center's staff to ensure her care was comprehensive. All of it funded by an anonymous donor. Everyone knew who that was. Miss Hartley? Mia turned to see a young woman in her 20s approaching hesitantly. She walked with a pronounced limp, leaning heavily on a cane. One of the clinic survivors. Please call me Mia, she gestured to the bench beside her. You're Sarah, right? From the clinic. The woman nodded, sitting carefully. I wanted to thank you. The agent said you were the one who helped set up the raid, that you put yourself at risk to save us. I didn't do it alone, Mia said quietly. A lot of people. But you started it. You could have stayed hidden, stayed safe. Instead you became bait. Sarah's eyes were wet. I was in that clinic for 8 months. 8 months of being drugged, used, treated like I wasn't human. I'd given up hope that anyone cared. Mia reached over, squeezed her hand. People care. Maybe not enough people. Maybe not the right people always find you in time. But they exist. They sat in comfortable silence, watching seagulls wheel against the blue sky. What will you do? Sarah asked. After this? After you're healed? I don't know yet, Mia admitted. Before all this, I was a medical intern. That life feels like it belonged to someone else now. Maybe it did. Sarah stood, balancing on her cane. Maybe we both get to be someone new now. Someone those bastards didn't break. After she left, Mia sat alone with her thoughts. The warehouse raid had been surgical. Alessandro's team moved with lethal precision, and Sokolov never had a chance. She'd watched it all on those screens, witnessed the moment when Viktor Sokolov realized he was surrounded, outgunned, finished. Alessandro had given him a choice: surrender to federal custody or fight. Sokolov chose to fight. It was over in seconds.
Clean.
Professional. Final. Mia had expected to feel something: horror, disgust, maybe satisfaction. Instead, she'd felt nothing but a quiet sense of completion. A chapter closing. The man who'd tortured dozens of people, who'd put a bounty on her head, who represented everything cruel about the trafficking network. He was gone. The world was measurably better for his absence. That realization should have disturbed her. Maybe it did, in ways she hadn't fully processed yet. Deep thoughts. Mia turned to see Alessandro approaching, carrying a folder. He looked different in daylight, less the dangerous Mafia boss and more like an exhausted man carrying too much weight. Thinking about how much I've changed, Mia said. A month ago, I would have been horrified by everything that happened. Now I'm just tired. Alessandro sat on the bench Sarah had vacated. That's trauma. Your body is processing it, trying to make sense of violence and betrayal. It takes time. How do you do it? Process all the violence you've seen? Poorly, he admitted with a slight smile. I compartmentalize. Tell myself it's necessary. Build walls between what I do and who I am, he paused. But those walls get thinner every year. Eventually, I think they'll disappear completely, and I'll have to face what I've become. You're not a monster, Alessandro. No, but I'm not a hero either. I'm something in between. Something necessary and terrible and occasionally useful. He handed her the folder. This is for you. Inside were legal documents, a new identity complete with birth certificate, social security card, driver's license. The name read Mia Rossi. Rossi. Mia looked up surprised. My mother's maiden name. It provides certain protections. Anyone in the underworld who sees that name knows you're under Vieri family protection. It's a shield. Alessandro's voice was gentle. You don't have to use it. But the option is there if you want to start completely fresh. Mia studied the documents. A new name. A new life. The chance to be someone other than Daniel's abandoned wife, or the trafficking victim, or the woman who caused a war. There's more, Alessandro continued. I've established a trust fund in your name, enough to cover medical expenses, living costs, education if you want to return to medicine. It's administered by an independent firm. No strings attached. No obligations to me or my family. Alessandro, that's too much. It's not nearly enough, his voice was firm. You lost 2 years of your life to disability. You lost your marriage to betrayal. You lost your sense of safety to my world's violence. Money doesn't fix that, but it removes one source of stress while you heal. Mia felt tears threatening. Why are you doing all this? Because 6 years ago, you saw a criminal chained to a hospital bed and decided he was worth saving. You didn't calculate the cost or the risk. You just acted because it was right. Alessandro's dark eyes were intense. You taught me that kind of goodness still exists. The least I can do is protect it. The debt is paid, Alessandro. You've done more than enough. This isn't about the debt anymore. He stood, preparing to leave. This is about making sure the world has one more good person in it. One more person who chooses compassion over convenience. Before he could walk away, Mia called out. What happened to Daniel? After the trial, Alessandro turned back. 15 years, federal prison. He'll be eligible for parole in 10 if he behaves. The divorce was finalized yesterday. I had the papers sent here. You're legally free of him. And the other trafficking networks? The ones that bought my information? Being dismantled systematically. Some through legal channels, some through other methods. Alessandro's expression darkened. Your information has been scrubbed from every database we can find. Anyone who comes looking for you now will find dead ends and very aggressive warnings. So I'm safe. Safer than most. But Mia, he hesitated. In my world, complete safety doesn't exist. There's always another threat, another enemy. I can give you protection, resources, a new identity, but I can't give you the normal life you had before. I didn't have a normal life before, Mia said quietly. I had a lie, an illusion of safety with a man who was planning to sell me. At least now I know the truth about the world. That's worth something.
Alessandro nodded slowly.
If you need anything, and I mean anything, there's a number in that folder. Call it and I'll answer. Always. Always is a long time. Yes, it is, he smiled, genuine warmth breaking through the dangerous exterior. But a Vieri debt is never forgotten. You saved my life once. I'll spend the rest of mine making sure that choice wasn't wasted. He left before she could respond. Mia sat alone in the garden, holding the folder with her new identity.
Mia Rossi.
It felt strange in her mind, foreign and familiar at once. A blank page. A second chance. 6 weeks later. Mia, now officially Mia Rossi, stood in the lobby of St. Catherine's Hospital. The same hospital where she'd done her internship, where she'd saved Alessandro from a fire that felt like a lifetime ago. But she wasn't here as an intern. She was here as an advocate. Miss Rossi. A hospital administrator approached nervously. Thank you for coming. We've set up a meeting with our board to discuss your proposal. Good, Mia's voice was steady, confident. Because what I'm proposing isn't optional, it's necessary. The proposal was simple, a patient protection program specifically designed for vulnerable individuals. Disability advocates embedded in the hospital system. Strict protocols for medical information security. Training for staff to recognize signs of abuse, trafficking, coercion. It was everything Mia wished had existed when Daniel started selling her information. The board meeting went well. Mia presented statistics from Agent Torres, testimonials from clinic survivors, and funding commitments from anonymous donors, Alessandro's network, though she didn't say that explicitly. By the end of the hour, the board had voted unanimously to implement the program. Walking out of the hospital, Mia felt something she hadn't experienced in years. Purpose. Her phone buzzed. A text from Alessandro. Heard the meeting went well.
Proud of you.
She smiled, typing back. Told you I wasn't helpless. His response came immediately. Never thought you were. Dangerous? Yes. Helpless? Never. Mia laughed, pocketing her phone. She wheeled herself to the parking lot where Mrs. Chen waited with the accessible van that was now officially Mia's, another gift she'd stopped arguing about. How did it go? Mrs. Chen asked. It went perfectly. Mia looked back at the hospital, at the building that had been both the site of her greatest trauma and now her first real victory. 1 hospital down. 100 more to go. Mr. Vieri mentioned you were thinking big. He taught me that sometimes big problems require big solutions. Mia settled into the van. And that good people doing nothing is more dangerous than bad people doing everything. As they drove through the city, Mia watched people moving through their lives, unaware of the darkness that lurked in forgotten places, the systems designed to exploit the vulnerable, the casual cruelty that could destroy someone in a heartbeat. But she also saw the helpers, the people who stopped when someone needed assistance. The stranger who held a door. The teenager who gave up his seat on the bus for an elderly woman. Goodness existed. It just needed protection. Amplification. Someone willing to fight for it. 6 years ago, Mia had run into a burning hospital to save a stranger because it was right. Now, she was building something to ensure no one else got abandoned at a bus stop, sold by someone they trusted, or lost in a system that treated them as disposable. Alessandro had asked what she would do after healing. The answer was simple. She would heal others. Protect them. Make sure the Daniels and Kozlovs of the world had one less victim to exploit. That night, in her apartment overlooking the ocean, another gift she'd finally accepted, Mia signed the divorce papers one last time, officially severing the last legal tie to her old life. Then she pulled out the documents with her new identity and made a decision. Mia Rossi would be different from Mia Hartley.
Stronger.
Braver. Unbreakable. Not because she wasn't scared, but because she'd learned that courage wasn't the absence of fear, it was moving forward despite it. She'd been abandoned, betrayed,
Sold.
nearly killed. And she'd survived all of it. Now she would make sure that survival meant something. For herself. For the 43 people from the clinic. For everyone like Sarah, learning to walk again after being broken. A Vieri debt was never forgotten. Neither, Mia decided, was a survivor's promise to fight back.
The end.